Motherland has arrived, and fortunately I am Superman of Doom. The people of the Motherland have come, and fortunately I am Superman of Doom. Chapter 30. The man seemed to think of something, and his vicissitudes and resolute face turned pale for a moment, even more frightened than facing the 5 battleships. Quick! Send him into the spaceship. It's too late. Quote. The words did not fall. Rumble. The outer wall of the fortress building, which can resist the energy bombardment of the battleship, was directly knocked open, and the demonic giant monster broke into the fortress. And before the man could react, he was trampled into meat sauce by people with armor. That's a giant hideous bone spur monster. Doomsday. No. The woman let out a heart-wrenching wail. Seeing that Doom's son cast her red eyes on the crib, the woman desperately pounced, and the next moment her body was directly penetrated by a gray and white bone spur. A little blood splashed on the metal crib, and the woman slowly fell to the ground. The giant monster did not react to this. Its eyes flashed with the red burning light of destruction, and it probed the blood-stained bone spurs towards the crib. And the bone spurs penetrated the small skull in the air along the way, and more than half of the subtle energy submerged into the bone spurs. The giant monster continued to probe the red hideous bone spurs, and the sharp bone tip touched the chest of the baby on the bed, and a drop of bean blood spilled from the tender and thin skin. The sleeping baby seemed to feel the pain, and as if sensing the death of his parents, his small mouth let out a loud cry. Baby cries echo through the ruined fortress building. The giant monster called Doomsday Day by the Kryptonian civilization suddenly stopped moving, its red pupils full of destruction and killing continued to dim. And the terrifying and hideous monster's face showed a ray of human struggle. Who am I? Where am I? Do what? Destroy everything? Why am I doing this? I'm not a monster. I am. Yimeng is just a human being. Quote. The blood-stained bone spurs slowly retracted, and Doomsday held his head in his hands and roared, looking at the remains of the pool of blood in the fortress. I did all this? No. How could I do these things? Quote. By the way, I'm dreaming. This time I became that monster again? Ha ha. The original simple aura of destruction on the day of destruction has an extra wisp of human madness. The cry of a baby and the sneer of a monster echoed inside the bloody and smoke-filled fortress. Why haven't you woken up yet? The giant monster slapped himself. The wind was strong, and he felt pain, but he still couldn't wake up from it. Then, according to the previous system program, the small spaceship inside the fortress opened the single-person inner cabin and emitted a dripping intelligent prompt sound. The spaceship will sail to its destination in 30 seconds. Please register the personnel to enter the cabin as soon as possible. Enter. Is this calling me? The giant monster stepped forward, gestured with its huge and hideous palm, and found that this single inner cabin, let alone its current body, could not even accommodate normal adult humans. At most, only one child can be accommodated. Quote. Doomsday cast his burning eyes on the baby who was still crying. 30 seconds later, the top of the fortress building opens, and a small spaceship ejects tail flames, leaving Krypton in the apocalyptic scenario and sailing to the outer space universe. In the narrow single cabin of the small spacecraft, the baby has stopped crying, and the little face is sleepy and sleepy again. Outside the cabin of a small spacecraft, a giant monster with a particularly terrifying appearance is clinging to the small spaceship, and the gray bone spurs are deeply stuck into the metal shell of the spacecraft. Because the surface of the outer space body is covered with a thin layer of white frost. It is also sleeping. The small spaceship sailed away from Krypton, submerged into a dark and lonely universe, and set off towards a civilization called Earth. Dividing line. In order not to jam the plot, even 5 chapters are updated, and the word count should exceed 13,000. This book is an attempt by the author Jun, instilled with a lot of effort, and also tries to depict the storyline. I hope that the book friends who chase here will have more support. Now during the recommendation period, the grades are average. Write so much I hope that book friends can at least click on it every day. Maintain the following reading, if you can write it. The plot will probably not disappoint you. In addition, ask for recommendation tickets and monthly passes for encouragement. 0034 high school student who was invaded the real world. Before the people of Tianhe City could react from the earthquake where the alien spacecraft fell, 3 crimson destructive energy rays burst out from the campus of Tianhe High School. Like the tip of a trident breaking through the top of the alien spacecraft from the bottom up, and continuing to unstoppably go straight up through the sky dome of the Earth star. Until it did not reach the depths of the infinite universe starry sky with a mysterious dark background. On this day, Trina City. No. Within the autonomous prefecture area where Tianhe City is located, when you look up, you can see the 3 red rays that seem to be the essence of destruction running through the heavens and the earth. In the area not far from the school and high school, what you see is a more shocking and frightening picture. I saw that the head of the U-shaped strange alien spacecraft, that is, the cabin where the 3 destruction red rays originated, suddenly erupted into a golden red ball of lightning. Ball lightning expands outward at an astonishing speed, bursting the spaceship directly from the inside, and pieces of annihilation cover everything that swept through. Metal and land are no exception. Combined with the 3 soaring red rays from the middle of the ball lightning, this scene is 100 times more beautiful than fireworks, more powerful and weird than missile bombardment, and directly imprinted in the hearts of every surviving student and peripheral support staff. I'm afraid they won't be able to forget what happened in front of them for the rest of their lives. And it was as if the mighty power of God had arrived on the other side of reality from fantasy, making people feel terrifying, trembling, and wanting to worship. Fortunately, the ball lightning did not last long, and the range just broke through the head of the spacecraft, and it stopped next to the outer wall of the teaching building. And the ashes fell like ashes in the sky. At this time, dense protective belts and iron nets had been drawn around the school. Many armed forces driving military vehicles rushed to the scene to support and maintain order. And a large number of medical and virus control personnel wearing white protective suits. My uncle is from the autonomous prefecture officer's side. I just came out of the scene. There is an emergency report. As one of the first survivors to escape from the trapped school building, Pan Hu directly reported the situation to the officers who rushed to the scene to rescue. And the information about the characteristics of the alien and the face-holding worm inside, but the information was withheld from Yiming's mouth. When the officer at the scene heard this, his already solemn and resolute face changed again, and he said in a deep voice, "Child, the information you feed back is very important. We will definitely attach great importance to it and deal with it according to the situation on the spot." Quote, "You can't go home yet, though. It is necessary to go to the isolation room of the nearest hospital for a comprehensive medical examination and isolate for 1 day." Quote, "I accept the arrangement of the Federation." Pan Hu responded calmly, and then looked at the teaching building that was almost integrated with the alien spacecraft 100 meters away. And the ball lightning and red rays that had disappeared and faded. Only the gray sky was still faintly glowing red, and the head of the alien spacecraft and the campus where it was located left an abyss, declaring that everything that had just happened was real. "Boss, you must be safe and sound," Pan Hu said secretly in his heart. Not far away, Bai Xiaolu's eyes could not hide the worry, and then admired the black-haired girl who stood on the left side calmly and elegantly, slightly raised her head. Even if she had just escaped death, the other party was still a noble image that could appear as a famous spokesperson at any time. No one noticed the girl's clenched fists hard, and the nails that had not entered the palm almost broke blood. "Don't miss the appointment again," Tifa muttered. That evening, the news report of the large plane crashing into the campus examination room was broadcast on the internet and TV of the Star Dragon Federation. News reports say the incident has now led to the complete scrapping of a school campus, disrupted the online testing of thousands of test takers, killed more than 500 people, test takers, invigilators, detectives, parents, etc. in the incident, and about 1,000 surviving wounded need medical observation. Once this matter was spread by the outside world, it naturally caused an uproar. For the entire Star Dragon Federation, this is an extremely serious accident. Of course, if the citizens of the outside Federation knew that it was not a large aircraft, but an alien spaceship from other civilizations and even other worlds, and an inhuman alien monster descended with the spacecraft, I am afraid that it would not be as simple as hot discussion and worry. Trina City, Supernatural Department. Isolation room at the highest level. A teenager covered with a white bed quilt was lying unconscious on the active hospital bed. His face, showing a slightly painful expression, was covered with an oxygen mask. And he was directly pushed in by special personnel wearing a full set of white protective clothing. The boy's hair originally seemed to be silver, but at this time it was a little white, and it looked like he had reached the end of his life, and his breath was very weak. Moisture. The oxygen mask and quilt worn on him were constantly steaming out. Oh my God, his body temperature is too high, it has been maintained above 50 degrees Celsius. A special person accompanying him glanced at the thermometer in his hand that was about to explode. And his eyes were stunned. Really fake? At this temperature, is the person still alive? I'm afraid that even the internal organs have been burned. Quote. Another accompanying special nurse quickly took out a bag of syringes, inhaled a small bottle full of medicinal solution, and then had to enter it from the exposed hot arm of the teenager. As a result, the moment the slender metal needle touched the skin of the silver-haired boy's arm, the surface of the arm immediately glowed with a gray-white bone light with the texture of a biological shell, causing the slender metal needle tube that was trying to penetrate the body to bend directly. It's not like being stuck in the human body, it's more like being stuck on something harder than metal. At this moment, the special medical staff were completely dumbfounded. Seeing this, the middle-aged inspector standing outside the one-way viewing glass window of the isolation room immediately said, "Let them all go out, there is no need to rescue the internees." Quote. But the young female detective on the side was about to say something. "Nothing," the middle-aged inspector said in a deep voice. "For the only human being in the ball lightning area, his death is a matter of course. If he does not die, it is a non-human category. And any of our conventional treatments will not be effective." Quote. "Yes, sir." Half a minute later, the highest-level isolation room closed the door again, and all the special rescuers left, leaving only the unconscious teenager lying on the hospital bed. And the other party was still steaming hot. I know him. He's called Yimeng, and he was here last week for intrusion detection. Quote. The young female detective looked at the teenager in the isolation room, her eyes flashed slightly, and handed a tablet notebook to the middle-aged inspector. The middle-aged inspector lowered his head and opened the personal invasion file of high school student Yimeng, turning it until the end.